Hello everybody. Today we are going to discuss literary terms or figures of speech. So there are certain questions in which you are asked to find out the literary term or the figure of speech. So here we are going to discuss some common figures of speech or some common literary terms which are generally asked exams, and also it is helpful in appreciating some poetry or prose pieces, can be helpful for the college students as well. So let's begin with simile. So yes, what is simile? First we must know what is simile. So simile means a comparison between two unlike things or two dissimilar things using like or as. Like or as are the crutch words used in simile. If the comparison is without like or as, we cannot say that it is simile. So it means simile must have like or as. The comparison must be. So it is an explicit comparison. Now how we use, for example, if I say he is like a tiger, it is an example of simile. I am comparing he using like with a tiger. But if I say Ram is like Mohan, this cannot be called a simile, because these are not two unlike things, unlike beings. So as I said, the comparison must be between two unlike things. So here I am comparing he with a tiger. So of course this can be called a simile if I use like. But this kind of comparison cannot be called a simile. We'll say that this is a plain comparison between two persons, but not simile. Same way, if I say he is as black as coal. So this is also an example of simile. So when we compare two things using either like or as, that will definitely be called a simile. So there are several instances in which we have to find such figures of speech, or we find the examples of simile. So you must focus on these two things. As busy as bee, as white as snow. So all this is an example of simile. I think it's very clear. Now let's move on to metaphor. So metaphor is also a comparison between two unlike things. It is an implicit comparison and it doesn't use any crutch words like as or like as we did in simile. So here it's a bit different from simile, but say let's see an example. He is a tiger. So in simile, I told you he is like a tiger. So there we used like. But here we don't need to use like or as. So that's the difference between simile and metaphor. Metaphor is an implicit comparison, shorter than simile, and we don't use the crutch words like or as. It is a direct comparison, right? He is a tiger. For example, if I say the curtain of night. So the curtain of night is again a metaphor. To use it in a full sentence, the curtain of night enveloped the whole valley. So here I am comparing, say, night with a curtain, the curtain of night. So same way we can have many such, say, the blizzard, it can be like, she is a tigress. This is also a comparison. So when we have any direct comparison like this will be called metaphor. I think very clear. Same way, there are several such examples. We can have many such examples. Now, personification. Personification means presenting, or say in this literary term or in this figure of speech, we present a non-living thing as living, or we treat some inanimate idea or some abstract thing as if it is living, as if it has life and form. So in that way, a non-living thing, inanimate idea is treated as if that has life. For example, if I say the thoughts came dancing to my mind. So here, of course, this is an example of personification. I'm saying thoughts came dancing to my mind. Now, how can thoughts dance, right? So here we are personifying thoughts as if thought is some living form, living body, and it can dance. So this is called personification. Same way, if I say the blushing rose now, how can rose blush? But here we said the rose is blushing, personification. If I say the sun glared down at me. Now, how can sun glare or say stare? So this is also an example of personification. So the simple thing to identify personification, that if a non-living object has been treated as living or has been presented as doing something or doing the function of a living body or form, then that definitely must be called personification. If I say sprinting trees, now trees can't sprint, but say in poetry and such we can show that in that way, like when we are moving, the trees seem to be running or going very fast on that side, so that can be said as sprinting trees, and that will become a personification, right? Now, apostrophe. Apostrophe is almost like personification, but there is a difference, because in personification we treat the non-living thing as living, and here in apostrophe the same thing happens, but the difference is in apostrophe we address the non-living thing or something which is absent. Moreover, we talk to those non-living things or the things which are abstract or the abstract ideas, we talk to them. So that is the difference between personification and apostrophe. In personification we don't address the non-living things, in personification we don't talk to those non-living things, but in apostrophe we do all that. For example, O solitude, where are thy charms? So here, now of course, solitude is nothing alive. Solitude means isolation, loneliness. It has no body or form, but still we are addressing solitude and asking that where are thy charms? So it is clearly an example of apostrophe, and you can also have or create such examples. Now of course, solitude we cannot talk to. Solitude is simply loneliness, but when we talk to or when we address such non-living things, so that becomes apostrophe. O death, where art thou? So here I am again talking to death, I am addressing death and asking where are you, where art thou? So same way you can also take the example of one of the very famous poem by John Donne, that is Death Be Not Proud, and here the very title, the very first line, Death Be Not Proud, can be taken as an example of apostrophe. So this is the only difference between apostrophe and personification, that in apostrophe we talk and we address the non-living thing. Clear? Okay. Now, paradox. Now, paradox means inherent contradiction. So if there is any inherent contradiction in a sentence which is a truth as well, that will be called a paradox. For example, a very famous, a very popular line by Wordsworth, that is, the child the child is the father of man. So this is a very famous example of paradox, that how come child be the father of man. But this is so because what happens, a child has to pass through all the stages. The child become father, or a person fathers a child. So it is the child who becomes the father of a person, or child has to pass through all such stages. So that's why we can say a child is the father of man is really true. But it it contradicts the very sense of the sentence, that a normal person may ask that how come a child be the father. But yes, it is the child who grows up to be the father. And this is this is a true fact which can be acknowledged and accepted by all. Same way, let's discuss one more such an easy example of this. Say, having no fashion, is a fashion. Now, how can having no fashion can be a fashion? But yes, that can be. So again, there is contradiction in the sentence as well. One, we are saying having no fashion, and in the later part we are saying that even that is a fashion. So of course it is possible, it is a generally accepted truth, we can say. Now let's see one more such example. Drinking a lot of water often makes you feel thirsty. Now, drinking a lot of water often makes you feel thirsty. How can that be true? But yes, it can be true. And moreover, there is that contradiction. On one side we are saying that drinking a lot of water, on the other side we are saying that it makes you feel thirsty. So all such kind of sentences which have inherent contradiction in them, which contradicts the very thought they claim, they tell, so such kind of sentences are said to be example of paradox. I think very clear. Now let's talk about antithesis. Antithesis means, anti is opposite, thesis, So opposite of any thesis, or say opposite of any fact that it presents, is there in the sentence itself. In other words, to be more clear, when a sentence has two contradictory phrases or clauses, it will be called, or it is called, an antithesis. Or in a more simpler way, when two contradictory ideas, when two contradictory clauses or phrases are set against each other in a balanced form in a sentence, that is called antithesis. For example, man proposes, God disposes, united we stand, divided we fall. So you can see how two opposite ideas have been put together against each other in a balanced form. Now this part is saying man proposes, and the opposite of this, God disposes. United we stand, and the opposite of this, divided we fall. So clearly different from paradox. Now people are confused about paradox and antithesis, and they mark antithesis as paradox and paradox as antithesis. But you must be very clear, there is a very clear difference. In paradox it is inherent contradiction, whereas in antithesis it's almost explicit, and it is in, of course, say in two parts, two phrases or clauses are there which are set against each other, having contradictory ideas. So let's have some more examples to make it more clear. To err is human, to forgive divine. To err is human, to forgive divine. So see again, here to err and there to forgive. Two opposite words, two opposite ideas are there. So it's very simple. When you have such opposite ideas set against each other, we can say that is an antithesis. Better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven is also an example of antithesis. Now it's not necessary there should be a comma always, there can be a conjunction as well. A connective or conjunction can be used. So you shouldn't think that a connective is there is no comma, so it should be paradox. No, it's not necessary. There can be a conjunction, but the important thing is to have two opposite or contradictory ideas. And just like this, there is one more figure of speech, that is oxymoron. So oxymoron, it's almost like antithesis, but the difference is in oxymoron we don't have a complete sentence, we only have two opposite words in pairs. For example, say open secret. Lawless, low. Silent, noise. So these kinds of word pairs which are opposite, the words in such pairs are opposite to each other. Now if it is open, how can this be a secret? And if it is secret, how can this be open? If it is lawless, how can it be a law? And if it is law, how can it be lawless? If it is silent, how can it be noise? If it is noise, how can it be silent? So such kind of opposite words when are there in a pair, that is called oxymoron. So now let's discuss one or two more literary devices, literary terms. You will know about alliteration. So alliteration means repetition of consonant sounds. Consonant sounds, not vowel sound, right? In the same poetic line. So when in the same poetic line consonant sounds are repeated, that is called alliteration, and that should be in, say, the nearby words, consecutive words. It shouldn't be like one in the beginning and the other in the end of that sentence. It shouldn't be like that. For example, longing, lingering, look. Now you can see the repetition of this consonant sound, longing, lingering, look. So when such repetition of consonant sound is there in a poetic, in the same poetic line, see, in the same poetic line, not in the different poetic lines, only that can be called alliteration. Same way, my late spring no bird or blossom shoot. Now this line has been taken from my elegy written in Country Churchyard, and this is a line from on reaching the my 23rd birthday. Now you can see here this this is what we are repeating, this sound, this consonant sound. So when consonant sound is repeated, that is called alliteration. But if the whole word is repeated, then what that will be called? Simply, that will be called repetition. If the complete word is repeated, that is called repetition. For example, far, far away from the gusty winds. These children's faces, a poem by Stephen Spender, the first line of that. So you can see the complete word has been repeated. So if a poetic line has such an example that a same word has been used more than once, so that is called repetition, and repetition is also literary term, and when repetition is there we don't mention alliteration, because of course alliteration is also there, the consonant sound is being repeated, but we don't mention alliteration when there is repetition, because repetition already means alliteration will be there. But if alliteration is there, repetition should be there, we cannot say that, right? So, and now it is onomatopoeia. Now, onomatopoeia is the sound which tells us or which denotes a particular object or thing. So we can say onomatopoeia is a literary device, is a figure of speech in which the sound of something denotes, or the sound denotes a particular object or thing. For example, if I say, I heard, a hissing sound. I heard a hissing sound. It was drizzling outside. So here when I use hissing, I don't have to mention the snake is somewhere there. The word hissing itself means, it suggests that I am talking of a snake. Same way, when I use drizzling, I don't have to mention that I am talking about rain. The word drizzling itself suggests that yes, I am talking of rain. So same way, there are many such words which find their association with particular things. For example, when I say jangle or jingle, that means the sound of a metal. Now that may be say the sound of coins or something like that. I heard a clank of bell or jingle of bells. So the words themselves are associated with certain things, and so automatically when we hear or read such words, the objects related to them automatically come into our mind. So that is called onomatopoeia. I think it's very clear. There are lots of such literary devices, there are lots of such figures of speech. Now these terms or these literary devices are especially especially useful or helpful for the students of class 10th, high school students, 10th class students or so. And there are more such literary devices which can be useful for the college students as well. This can also be helpful for college students, but there are more such. So to know more about literary devices, watch the next video, part 2, literary devices. Thank you for watching this video.